Hello and welcome to another episode of Garden to Table with Rose, and I am Rose. So today we are back for day 4 of the 10-day soup challenge. So if you haven't already, you may want to go and review day 1 through 3. So I made, let's see if I can recall though. Tomato soup was the first day. The second day was a red curry lentil soup, and the third day was a Thai coconut soup. Today we're doing a spicy roasted red pepper soup, which I am a fan of red pepper soup, so I figured I would like this one. And the one thing I am loving about these recipes is that they're all pretty quick to make, you know, so they can be made during the week. I think it's been probably about 30 minutes on average of cooking and simmering for each one, so that's pretty good. Okay, so this recipe serves 4, just like all the others. I have been finding that I'm getting more like 6 servings out of each one of these recipes, so I'm getting a little bit extra. And so we'll see how this one works out. Now, if you haven't already, please click the thumbs up, like this video, subscribe to the channel, click that yellow box on your screen, and it will subscribe you so you'll get alerts of new videos. All right, so for this recipe, let's go through the ingredients. I have prepped all my ingredients because that tends to make these things go faster. I got my my pot preheating on my little induction stove top, and I'm gonna add some oil, a tablespoon or 2, because I'm about to saute these cut up veggies here. So let me let that heat up. But I'm using my thyme infused EVOO. You can use whatever oil you want. You can use plain olive oil. But I'm using the thyme infused because the recipe calls for dried thyme, 1 teaspoon. And so instead of using dried thyme, I'm using my thyme infused oil, and I'm gonna skip the thyme. So you need 6 red bell peppers whole. Now, I believed I used 4 because mine were huge. I mean, this is half of a bell pepper. So mine are pretty large, so I decided to just go with 4 because I don't want 8 servings of soup. I still have soup from the last 3 days. I threw in a tomato just because I had a ripe tomato from my garden. You're going to need a tablespoon or so of the olive oil to saute these vegetables in. 1 onion chopped. I used about 1/2 of a large yellow onion. 3 carrots chopped, 2 celery stalks chopped, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 1 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon dried thyme, 1/2 teaspoon red pepper flakes, 1/2 teaspoon dried oregano, and 4 cups of vegetable stock or broth. And these are vegan recipes, so if you're not vegan, of course, you can use any kind of stock you want. You could use chicken or beef or whatever. And then suggested toppings to garnish it with are diced onions, red bell pepper dice, and sliced green onions. Now, let me tell you what I did. I roasted my red pepper. You're going to need to do that. So basically, you're going to wash your peppers, half them, take all the seeds out, and then put them on a baking pan. I would line that pan with either aluminum foil or parchment paper. It's up to you. You're going to put them under the broiler until they char, meaning start to turn a little blackened in certain spots. So that might be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes depending on your broiler. And then you're going to turn them over and let the other side kind of char. And then what I do is I turn the oven off and just leave them there because you want it to sweat. You want them to cool and to sweat so you can peel off the skin of the peppers. So I've already done that step. I used my oven to do mine under the broiler. If you had your grill going, you could char these on your grill as well, but then you want to put them in something where they can steam, so something closed. Some people will use a paper bag or even just a container, like a Tupperware type container. You can do that, and then you want to peel them. And it doesn't have to be perfect the peeling, just as much as you can get off. All right, it just makes a smoother soup, less fiber. when you mix it up. This is going to be a pureed soup, so you don't have to finely dice everything. I would just give it a rough chop because you're going to puree it in the blender anyway, and that saves you a little bit of time. So I got my carrot here. I got a half an onion because I don't like a whole lot of onion. I got celery here that I've chopped up. Instead of red pepper flakes, I decided to just add a whole serrano pepper to the whole batch of soup. So it's going to give it a little bit of a kick. I happen to have them in the refrigerator. So I sliced that up and put it in here. You could roast it with your red peppers if you were going to use something like that. It's up to you. So, and in terms of my oregano, I'm using fresh just because I have it. Okay, so basically, you want to saute all the veggies, leave out the garlic, leave out the peppers. You're going to add those in a little bit later. Now I'm deviating a bit from this recipe, as I do, because according to this recipe, they want you to saute these vegetables for 10 minutes, add the rest of your ingredients, saute it for 2 minutes, put it in a blender to purify it, then put it back in the pot and cook it for 10 minutes or so, or five minutes or so. And to me, that's like an extra step. I don't know why you would put it back in the pot after you puree it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all my ingredients to this pot, let that reach a simmer, as we did for the last pureed soup, and then I'm going to transfer that whole pot of stuff to my Vitamix and purify it that way. Or not purify it, puree it. And puree it that way. So that's what I have decided to do. And that's pretty much it. I'm not adding salt because to me the broth is salty enough. It doesn't usually need extra salt. To garnish mine, I'm just going to use oregano here. I'm going to chop some fresh oregano because I have it here. I might as well use it for the garnish. Alright, so as you can see, these veggies are just starting to begin to cook a little bit. You know, so this is 10 minutes of sauteing this before I can move on to the next step. So I'll return once this has cooked down for the next step. Alright, 1 minute. Alright, I am back, and my mixture has been cooking for, I would say, about 10 minutes. It's golden brown. Usually you get more flavor if you kind of saute veggies whenever you're making a soup first. I think one of the others we made, they didn't do that. They just mixed everything together, but you could always choose to saute it. So now I'm going to add all my other ingredients, basically. First, I'm going to add my garlic. I like to add the garlic and let that cook for, you know, a minute, because that just kind of helps with the raw garlic taste, and you get something that tastes a little bit more richer, caramelized. And right now is when you would also want to add your dry seasonings. So everything's going in. I'm not using any dry seasonings, but I am going to use some of this oregano. This fresh oregano. So I'm going to put that in now. Chop it up a little bit. And then I always recommend, with broth, like I said, it's pretty salty. So I would recommend you wait until this all boils down and then taste it and see if you want to add salt at the end. Otherwise it might get too salty. Alright, so now I'm going to add my peppers in this one little lonely tomato I have. Now I guess you could use jarred roasted red peppers, but they're kind of pricey for a little jar. I don't know, it's like $4 for a tiny jar of it. So it's probably a lot more cost efficient to make your own. It only takes a few extra minutes. Like I said, you could do that. You could also do it on your grill if you happen to have a grill going, or you prefer an actual wood-fired or charcoal flavored pepper. You could also do it just on top of your burner if you have a gas stove. You can always take a pepper, leave it whole, and you can sit it directly on the metal grate and let it cook for a little bit and keep turning it until you have all the sides as brown or darkened as you want. So you could do that. But when you're doing 5 or 6 of them at a time, it's pretty easy to just put it on the cookie sheet and do them all at once. So here I have 4 cups of my veggie broth. Again, I'm using the Better Than Bouillon. The Better Than Bouillon base, just because I like it. I like it. I think it's very flavorful, and you can intensify the flavor as much as you want by adding more or less of the paste to your liquids. So I like that too, because I always use extra. I always use 1.5 times the amount of the concentrate to water to give it extra flavor. And also it adds extra salt, so that's another reason why I don't usually need to add salt to mine. So you can see here, I got all of this now stirred up in this pot. And luckily it doesn't look like a huge volume, so 4 servings maybe. I'm sure I'll still get 6, but I'm happy with that. I'm gonna put the lid on it just because this induction burner doesn't get extremely hot. So to kind of trap the heat and get it up to simmer faster, I'm gonna put the lid on. I'm going to leave this here until it simmers. I'm going to simmer mine for 5 minutes. That's just me doing my own thing. And then I'm going to take it all and transfer it to my blender and purify it in my Vitamix, and that is literally it. Taste it and see if you need any salt and pepper. Serve it up. You can garnish it however you like. I'm garnishing mine simply with more fresh oregano. Then roasted red pepper soup, and that goes good with a lot of things. Like pretty much any protein, that would go good with it. Go good with seafood, with beef, with chicken. I'd eat it with just about any protein as a side because, you know, I'm not vegan or vegetarian. I think I am going to have macaroni and cheese, like homemade macaroni and cheese with mine, just because I want macaroni and cheese today. I have not had it in months, so I'm going to make a batch of that, and that will serve as my protein, even though there's a lot of carbs there. If I'm having that many carbs plus all the fat, I'm not going to add another protein. So whatever protein I get from the dairy that's in there is what I will have. All right, so I shall be back once this has simmered for about 5 minutes and I'm ready to puree it, and then we'll puree it and we'll put it in a bowl and taste it. This is a pretty simple and another simple and quick soup. So I'm very hopeful. I think it's gonna go well. All right, I shall be back. All right, I am back, and I have simmered my pot of soup for about 5 minutes, and then I took it out and put all the contents of the pot into my Vitamix. So now mine's is almost full. I would not advise you to blend that much at one time because this is very, very hot, but I've done this a few times, so I'm gonna risk it to blend it, okay? So then I'm just gonna puree this until it's the thickness that I like it. If it is too thick, you can add a little bit more water to thin it out. If it's too thin, you're in trouble. The only way to really thicken it would be to add some kind of thickener like cornstarch or flour or something like that. But also, like most soups, it will thicken up if you refrigerate it, you know. So if you're having leftovers, it'll progressively probably get thicker, and so then you can add more water when you reheat if you would like. All right, so start slow. And another thing you can do is you can take a towel and put it over there too if you're worried about it splashing on you. It does not. All right, and the whole time I had the top just kind of sitting loosely at the plug. I didn't put it all the way in because that steam, it would have exploded out. It did splash a little bit, but very little. I had my towel there too to cover it up. So I blended this for about a minute just because I want a really pureed smooth soup. I don't want it chunky. If you want it chunky, obviously you do it for less time. Ow, it's hot. So what I'm going to do now is taste it and see if it needs salt and pepper. And mine is pretty thin, not too thick, and I don't want it thick. Not something like this, a simple pureed vegetable soup. I don't really want that thick. I'd rather actually it be drinkable so I can have it in a mug or something for a snack or breakfast. So that's pretty good. Ooh, that's hot. It's piping hot. Let me taste it. It shouldn't need salt with all that broth. Ooh, it's spicy. It's spicy from that serrano pepper. Obviously you don't have to use a serrano pepper. You could just use a little bit of red pepper flakes. You could use something less hot like a jalapeno or nothing. You can omit the heat completely if heat isn't your thing. But I just wanted a little heat in this one today. So I'm gonna pour some in my bowl. It has a little foam on top from the vegetables. Now you could skim that off if you want to be extra fancy. It will melt down as the soup cools, but you could always skim that froth off the top and just throw it out if you desire. I'm not gonna do that because it's not like I'm serving this to anybody but myself. So I put just a little oregano. I mean, you could put some sour cream. If you're not using sour cream, I guess the cashew cream that's included in these recipes, you could use that if you want. I'm not going to add anything. I'm just going to eat it like this because I'm also having mac and cheese with mine. So I'll have something filling and carb heavy. So that's what I am going to do. So I've already tasted this. There's not much more to say. It's good. It's you know, it's spicy, but I wouldn't say it's the most flavorful. You know, it's kind of subtle. I don't mind it. It's tasty. It's one that I probably would make again, but I think if I make this again, I would add some of my sun-dried tomatoes to intensify the flavor a little bit, because the flavor is pretty mild. It's not an intense, in-your-face kind of flavor, but it is okay. I am not complaining. So that was the spicy roasted red pepper soup, which is day 4, I believe, of this 10-day soup challenge. So come back for the next video. The next video we'll be making the ultimate detox soup, which I've never heard of a detox soup, but this has a lot of different veggies and lentils. I am not a big fan of beans or bean type soups, like I've said before, but I'm gonna try it and give it my best shot. So if you haven't already, like the video, click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time with day 5 of my soup challenge. Bye bye.